Thanks everybody. Just a quick few housekeeping things. Obviously fire escapes, if you hear a fire alarm, the fire escape is around the corner. Simon says you're free to jump on top of him after he's leapt out the window. So we have a very esteemed panel of designers going to talk about design for digital today. Before the session I tweeted out saying, all right, motley bunch, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to keep them in check, and everyone said just give them some beer. So I'm just interested to see that just about everyone's got beer. So we're going to kick off with first of all I'm going to ask each of you to introduce yourselves and very quickly to say who you are, where you work, and also we'd like to know how did you get your first break in design?
I'm not a designer, but I'm David Eccles from Pneumaco, one of the founders of Pneumaco. So yeah, I'm not a designer, but obviously like what we do includes a lot of design, and a lot of what I do is trying to structure teams in a way that works. So it's been a constant interest, stroke issue, stroke pain in the arse, trying to make designers work in a way that makes sense for the web. So, enough.
I'm Gaz Battersby, I'm Digital Creative Director at Epiphany Solutions, and I'm actually not sure how I ended up doing what I do. Kind of similar, I wouldn't class myself as a designer. I wanted to be in TV advertising. That sounds like I'm pouring my heart out now, but it never really happened. I went to do a marketing course at university to do marketing and creative work, and then they dropped the TV production modules. And then I became a rubbish DJ and started designing websites for rubbish events that I put on. And the rest is pretty much history really, so it was right place at the right time. So, okay.
Cheers. Rob Farnell, lead creative designer at Sky. I started 10 years ago in the industry. Got my first job through university through my tutor, who had a friend who had an agency and somehow ended up employing me alongside somebody who I also shared my degree show with. So there's two of us who got picked up. Again, strangely, we both wanted to work in the wonderful world of TV. And that didn't really happen, and the web kind of created itself, and here I am 10 years later loving it, so there you go.
Hi, I'm Paul Mackenzie. I'm a designer at a small startup in South Yorkshire. Got into digital through this man here about 3 weeks before I graduated in 2009. I got a DM saying, do you fancy a job? Took loads of stuff along, got a job for 9 months, left, did freelance for a bit and started consulting work and design work for a few startups in the UK and the US. And like I said, now I head up is only one of me. Design a small startup. We're working on an app at the moment which helps you filter your Twitter feed using similar rules to email. That's what I do.
Hi, I'm Kev Charlton. I'm Digital Creative Director at Fuse 8 in Leeds. I guess my kind of break into design was all down to my love of music, doing little side projects for bands and stuff in Wakefield, little GeoCities websites and all that. So thank you, GeoCities. So yeah, but I've been working at Fuse 8 for a fair while now, and it's all going good.
I'm Ian. I am Creative Director at Order of Magnitude, and I got my break in the web when I was at school because I didn't want to do CCF, so I joined the web team back in 1996. And with a small detour into sound engineering and multimedia teaching, I now work doing web design and all the usability stuff.
Okay, thanks guys. So on to the first question. Today, more than ever, digital is mainstream. It's no longer kind of like a black arts activity. But I'm just interested to hear from each of the panel. What does designing for digital actually mean to you? And do you think it's possible to very quickly give it a definition? And we're going to start this one with the cat in the hat. Mr. Paul Mackenzie.
Yeah, difficult question. But essentially, I think designing for digital is about designing for interaction. I think it's almost a sense that the designer has to surrender some of the design to the user, and whereas before, where a lot of content wouldn't be as dynamic, where users would actually be inputting stuff, there's more of a sense that designers are creating frameworks or places for users to then put their content in. So it's even to the point in which, you know, a CMS, you build a CMS, but you're not really you're unsure about how the client is going to fill that CMS with content. And same with sort of an app online. You know, you don't know whose photos are going to be uploaded, what they're going to, how they, well, you know, you try and guess how they're going to use it, but you don't know what's going to be there basically. So that's my opinion on it anyway. So.
I think I'm going to sort of maybe contradict some of that, and I think that's a good description for design for web design, but actually for me, digital encompasses pretty much anything that involves screens, whether they're like kiosks, CD-ROMs, whatever. You might have a fixed width, you might know how the content's going to be displayed, sort of native apps on mobile, you've got a much more fixed palette. So knowing the interactions is one thing, but also I think knowing the restrictions and working within boundaries for visual layouts is important too.
I think one of the key things for me that kind of separates digital maybe from the likes of print design is that it's potentially an ongoing thing. So obviously there needs to be a constant kind of optimization of the kind of work that you've done. So you're able to test the work that you've done, where in some sort of mediums you're not able to do that. So that's quite key.
I think maybe one other thing to add to that is that as a designer, and if you're taking on a project, you don't necessarily, I mean, you're right, it is all about the screen, but you shouldn't dismiss other media formats to allow you to, you know, distribute that end goal. Which I think that it might not be your skill set, you might need to find someone else to assist with that.
Like in the game of pass the mic, it's going to come to you in a minute. I think I kind of agree with Rob in a lot of ways, that the point of it all is communication. I think effective design is about good communication regardless of the medium that you choose to do that in. And I think sometimes the word digital design for websites, to be an easy example, can kind of get in the way, that the medium gets in the way of that effective communication. And your end user is ultimately perceiving themselves as very time poor and choice rich, certainly when it comes to websites. So very, very effective, quick communication is always the key to good design, and certainly for online design. That's why I see it's very important. And as we see a lot of mediums converging into one, so a website nowadays can be just as much a full screen video as it can be a piece of design work in terms of the classic sense, in terms of organising content, such as Paul was mentioned. The scope in terms of what that definition of design can be is very broad. I might actually end up in the future be able to get into television advertising, as I always imagined, because the web can be a good medium for that. So.
Yeah, I think, it's interesting, isn't it? Because everyone's given a slightly different answer, and I think that kind of hits a nail on the head, really, is there isn't a set kind of description of what it is, because it's user interface design that would have at one point been, kind of desktop software type UI, there's branding, there's interaction design, there's design over time and state design, so it's everything, which isn't very useful, but...
Okay, so digital is everything. I guess is the answer to that. But in light of the kind of the theme of the answers, the role of a designer seems to be ever more that of a polymath. So, we're defining user interaction, user interface. We might be involved in information architecture. We might be anticipating how digital is being used offline and off screen. But where does this all end? Where does the line get drawn? Do you think that designers have to know how to build? Do you think they have to know everything, or do you think that might be actually maybe not so good a thing?